Quite often you come up with great ideas, but when we are all on Zoom, it's really hard. We cannot have a great conversation. We cannot debate each other well because everyone tends to be very friendly when you join a Zoom call. You work absolutely more hours, and statistically, you're producing 8 to 15% less than your coworkers that are in the office. Requests that are done in person are 34 times more likely to be approved. We're built for community. And so the best parts of work do happen when we're together. And so that's why I created and wrote that book.
No one makes magic in business like Disney. Join us as we hear from Disney cast members, influencers, and enthusiasts to uncover the secrets of what it takes behind the scenes to make Disney such a successful and well-loved brand. We will hear their journeys, inspirations, and have some good old-fashioned Disney fun along the way. So relax, pull up a chair, be our guest, and let's get down to Bippity Boppity Business. Hello, Tim. Welcome to Bippity Boppity Business. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. Your background and your experience and the book that you have really spoke to me, especially as someone who myself was really into theater and drama and choir and all the things. And, before I dive head first into any of that, would you mind just giving us a really brief synopsis of who you are and, this mission that you're on with this book that you're launching?
Of course. Yeah. Tim Carroll. I'm the CEO of Lyric Workplace, author of Workplace, Reclaiming In-Person Work in a Remote Obsessed World. And this all was created out of really back to my master's thesis 100 years ago when I was trying to defend that work from home was the new way to work. And I finished that thesis realizing culture really can't be built remotely, and it is really difficult to maintain. And so fast forward, I was done writing after that. I had no desire to write a book. Many years later, COVID hit, and I was being asked to speak a lot on this topic, a lot because of my background in my academic work, but also Lyric Workplace and the dealerships that I've worked at in the past. We're an commercial interiors company. And so we deal a lot with culture. And really, culture is an agreed upon set of behaviors created by and maintained by the employees. And so with that, when we were separating everybody, there was a lot of conversation. I started having I was doing a lot of speaking on that topic. And from that birthed the book and thought, I waited, nobody really wrote it. So I was like, well, I guess it's me. I'll go ahead and write a book on why the best parts of work happen when we're together. Not we all have to be full-time in the office, but we have to carve out time to be together because we're built for community. And no matter how introverted you are, we're built for community. And so the best parts of work do happen when we're together. And so that's why I created and wrote that book.
I think that's why I was excited to have you on the show, because there are a lot of people that might be hesitant to admit the fact that when you are in person, like that's where, I use this term a million times, but it's a Disney podcast. So that's where the magic happens, basically. Right. And there are instances where I've gone to the theme parks with friends or maybe colleagues or just anyone. It's the place where I try to go to get write-off meetings, but I just go with anybody. And even with the naysayers, and we go when we have a great time. And it's because there was a shared immersive experience that we had together. In the theme park, there's goals, there's things that you're doing, there's memories, there's laughter, there's bonding. And in my opinion, remote only work, you miss those moments. You miss the nuances of the day or somebody passing by. And tell me about how you think that affects a team from a psychological perspective. What are the negative downsides from a mental health aspect of being the person that's only in the digital world working?
Well, let me first say, as someone who's done a lot of work with Disney in an area where maybe you haven't had a lot of people on your podcast behind the scenes in their millions and millions of square feet of office space in Central Florida. So I've worked really closely with their building and property management folks over the years. And I can promise you, Disney understands this point that we are better together. And they spend a lot of time because the number one way you can change culture is change the space.
The
And people
environment.
will work to the promise that that space gives you. And so Disney believes it, and they really do want to create a space where people want to come to work and do their best work. And so it is really great to work with them and any client that really understands that point. But to your point, it always makes me chuckle when I hear people, because look, we optimized for convenience, not for what's best for the company, but what's best for us in our own lives. And there is a responsibility to the company. I think we forget that sometimes as employees, that yes, the company should do right by me, and they should pay me what I'm worth, and they should treat me well. But there's a reciprocal there. We need to do right by the company, and really optimizing for personal convenience is not necessarily what's the best for the company. And so it always makes me chuckle when I hear people talking about work from home and COVID and how that really just ignited this world for them. The truth is, we had a mental health issue that was created during COVID. And I think we can all agree to that, right? But there was a mental health issue for a lot of us, anxiety and all of that. And if that's the case, and it's because we were separated, why is keeping everybody separated the answer? Well, of course it's not. And the CDC has a really interesting statistic, and talk about it in the book, about the pre-pandemic anxiety and depression, that 1 in 10 Americans really were feeling that. After 2022, that number was 1 in 5. It really did affect us in a big way. And so I really think that mental health side of this is one that can't be ignored. Some would say everyone's feeling overworked. That's another very
Because you work
strong.
more, I think, if you work remote, because the boundaries are blurred.
You work absolutely more hours, and statistically, you're producing 8 to 15% less than your coworkers that are in the office. And people think, well, I'm working more, I must be doing more. Statistically, you're not.
Talk to me about going back a little bit to the other side of it. We're weighing out the pros and cons candidly throughout this episode. It was interesting to me how you said that Disney optimized their offices to make people want to work there. What is that, if you're able to share, what are some of those factors that are considered to have that effect on employees?
Yeah. So, there was a time, I'm going to create a new word here, the Googleification of the office, where people were putting putting greens and beer on tap and all pool tables and all of that stuff. Well, what we found from all of that, and I was part of that across the country, helping create those spaces, what we found is it's tough to maintain. It quickly becomes like a frat house. It's really tough. If you go back to some of those locations 10 years later, it's really, the felt on the pool tables are all cut up and the pool cues are all broken. And, it's tough. That's not across the board. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but really it's creating space where a good design can create spaces where people, it's a beautiful space. Good design is good business. Lawrence Knowles said that once. And so creating a beautiful space, when people walk in, they feel good about where they're going to work. But good design of the space plan can create spaces where people do have those, what I call the bump factor, where you happen to serendipitously run into somebody, have a quick conversation about a project you're working on. Maybe they give you a quick, hey, have you thought about this? And then everything takes off to a new direction. Those things, while I tried to create those as much as possible during COVID, when everybody was separate and we opened up Teams and Zoom rooms where people could, it's just manufactured though, right? It was not really organic. And so those moments happen. And really, I believe, and most of our industry believes, that we can create places and spaces where people leave healthier than they arrived by coming to work, cognitively, emotionally, physically. You're creating places where you get up, right? It's now almost passe. It's almost not even a thing anymore, but there was the phrase, sitting is the new smoking, for many years.
I remember that.
Right.
Yes.
And it's true. I mean, just sitting sedentary is not, so you create space, like the convenience of having your printer right here. It'd be great, but how about you get up and have to do a few steps to get to it? That's physically going to help you.
Mm.
Mentally and emotionally, you're going to run into somebody. You have interactions. That's helping. Now you create places where people can retreat. So you've got what you would call cubicles, what we call systems,
Are
workstations.
we really trying to rebrand the word cuticles?
Well,
Cubicle to
we've never
system?
called it cubicles. There's a lot more
Okay.
involved in it. That's a term we
Well,
do not use.
but wait, we got to talk about it because it's the elephant in the room.
Sure.
I think the cubicle is the elephant in the room
It's
for
coming back. There was a big move to open office benching, what we would call benching, with long runs of side by side and all that. Cubicles are coming back because now all of a sudden everything old is new again. People are wanting to feel safe and comfortable in their own little space, and that they have a space dedicated to them.
so interesting to me because
Yeah.
I feel like the reason why I bring it up is the case for folks saying that they don't want to go back into the office is I don't want to just like be in a cubicle and not talk to other people and water cooler talk. What does that mean? It's nothing, you know? So what would you say to that person?
The office, well, two things, really important things. Nobody wants to come back to the office to do the things that they could do sitting at home.
Mm-hmm.
And heavily involved in TikTok of all things. A little too many gray hairs to really be involved in TikTok, but I've done it to engage with people about the book. And you know, everybody talks about how a lot of people are talking about on TikTok about how, and that's people of a certain age, right? Not my age necessarily, talking about I hate going into the office and doing 7 or 8 Teams calls and then getting in my car and driving home. It's annoying. And I get it. If that's your day, maybe you can work from home that day. But the office should become the social and collaborative hub of the company. It's where culture is built. It's where the seeds of culture are sown. So create environments where people can collaborate together, create spaces where, I mean, we do a lot of group teamwork in the world today, right? And so create places where those teams can come together physically. I talk about in the book, you know, there's all kinds of statistics about how groupthink starts to happen when we're working via Zoom or Teams, because people don't want to they want to get along, go along to get along. They're not coming up with really great statistics. I do want to make sure that I get this right because I do love this quote, and it's from Zoom CEO, and it's in the book. Quite often you come up with great ideas, but when we are all on Zoom, it's really hard. We cannot have a great conversation. We cannot debate each other well because everyone tends to be very friendly when you join a Zoom call. Hey, if the technology that we're using to justify why work from home works is telling you it doesn't, we should maybe listen.
That's fascinating. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about a few calls that I've had where I've been a bit more agreeable than I maybe normally would if I was face to face. And in my personal opinion, I think I agree with the TikTokers who are saying, I don't want to go to the office just to do Zoom calls.
Agreed.
But at the same time, though, you're right. I think there needs to be a responsibility from leadership. If we're getting people to come back to the office, what are we actually doing of value to make it worth it? I
Huge
think it's the bigger
responsibility.
question that we should be
Yeah.
asking.
And that's a huge responsibility. And I'm not certain, and this is a whole other topic, Rita, I'm telling you, we have a leadership deficit in this country. And that's not a political statement. That is a leadership in like corporate America. There is a leadership deficit. I would submit it's only going to get worse because mentorship is not going to be able to happen. And it doesn't happen remotely. Give me the silver bullet. If somebody out there has it, give me the silver bullet. How do we adequately mentor the younger folks in a remote world? More is caught than taught. And so how are they catching anything if they are separated from everybody? But we have a leadership deficit. Now, I'm heavily involved in John Maxwell, and I'm a certified John Maxwell team leader. There are a very strong group, I know, and there's other groups out there like that of leaders coming together. There are good leaders out there. We need a lot more. And without it, decisions are going to be made, like just tell them to come back and we will just go back to where we were.
Too,
Right.
I want to reiterate too that I think there's additionally a leadership issue, especially for this next generation up and coming, because of what you exactly said. I remember in high school, I was offered to shadow different like media, like a news reporter or shadow a marketer, and I would shadow people and just simply, like you said, observing in real time. There's just something about that energy that's very difficult to replicate online. And I think what I really admire about the training that Disney does is they really emphasize that in-person togetherness, leading on a core value, like their whole traditions process of, how they onboard a new person and make them understand what their greater why and picture is in an organization. It's hard to feel that greater why when you're at your home next to your dog or cat on your computer. It's just hard. And that's why for me, I've personally tried a more hybrid approach where a
Perfect.
lot of the work that I'm doing that is moving mountains and changing my life and my career and making me feel fulfilled is in person. And I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, I think.
But I'm so glad you brought that up, because the last thing I wanted to do is make this, and I made sure all the editors, everybody knew I wanted to be held accountable to, I don't want this to seem like it's a one prescriptive book that I'm saying everybody needs to be in the office. I do believe that work from home works for some people. And we talk about that, right? We can talk about that. And I definitely write about that in the book. And I'm a firm believer in hybrid. I'm a firm believer, really what I would call flexible. And so I think what we've learned, we went through the biggest workplace research experiment ever, and that was COVID. And I think what we learned is it can be done. And I think short spurts, it can be done. So I think we should be flexible. I think we should be able to say, hey, you've got an HVAC tech coming to your house and they give you this 17-hour window that they'll be there at your house. Work from home. Don't take the day off.
Yeah.
Be productive.
Yeah.
Work while you wait. And that should be okay, right? Then your employees aren't burning through their vacation time. They're doing work. They're getting it done. So I'm a firm believer in hybrid because as long as we're coming together, and I do want to touch on, because I think maybe, this is a podcast about Disney, and I think some of this Disney information would be interesting to them.
Mhm.
I love how detailed Disney is about their spaces. Everybody knows it to be true on stage, backstage, under the park. They have cafes, cast cafes, and the amount of detailed kind of thought that went into and continues to go into even those spaces, to give the cast members a place where they can rest, relax, renew, creating areas where they can actually retreat to and get away from, because there's all kinds of people. I'm one of the people. I'm a pretty out there person, but I'm
I
an
feel like
introverted extrovert.
there's a sign though that probably at the bottom of the utilidors that says, if this girl approaches you, don't talk to her. She's a lot at Disney. So they need those recluse spaces from me too,
Yeah.
probably.
I'm a introverted extrovert.
Yeah.
And so they're moving to a new title now. And so I can be out there when I need to be,
Right.
but it is kind of taxing and exhausting, right? And so I want to retreat sometimes after being in front of a lot of people or around a lot of people. And so they took people like me into consideration, and they have those places where in those cast cafes, they can go and remove themselves from the hubbub and just kind of get back to some peace for a second and renew and regenerate.
No, that's so interesting how, a break room, for lack of better words, would, because as I talk to you, what I'm starting to understand is we're having the wrong debate. The debate of being in office versus not being in office is not solving for the larger question here, which is, how do we lead an excited and fulfilled and enriched team? And what things do we do to make those options or opportunities possible? So it's like, doesn't matter if it's a shack house or a boat, like wherever we're at, like we need to be creating those experiences, those opportunities.
What raise the conversation to what do we do in the space that will make everybody want to be there and be the best person and the best part of themselves when they are there. The pendulum's swinging. Gen Z,
Kind of what I'm trying to attempt and explore. These quarterly offsites or these spurts of working in person and doing the admin boring Zoom stuff behind the scenes, like this flexible ongoing thing. Because, next week I'm going to the Cannes Festival, which is such an amazing opportunity. What I'm noticing though, Tim, is what I was thinking, like, what is it about this event other than the celebrities and the yachts and all that jazz that
keep
makes
rubbing it
everybody,
in. Keep rubbing it in.
sorry, you're gonna come with me next time, right?
Okay.
No, I mean, and I don't even know, I've never been. Okay, so what if I go and I just like end up being like, oh hey, like go get me a coffee or whatever, right? Like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think, like, from the outside in, as an observer currently, what is it that makes businesses and individuals spend so much money to go all halfway across the world to all meet each other? And I think it's because the people crave those in-person opportunities that you can only get when we're all in the same room together, experiencing something new, inspiring, learning. Like, it's showing me, because this is the third year that they've done this program and it's the highest attended, highest, most paid year. Like, what I'm saying is, you're right. It's showing me that the people crave community.
Look, I'm enjoying this conversation and this does work. I would 10 out of 10 times prefer this conversation to be face to face.
Yes,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? 10 out of 10. It would actually be a better conversation. I promise you, I'm much better in person than I am.
Yeah.
on
And,
Teams.
I think too, there's even, if we talk about the media side of this too, there's fatigue from viewers who are even watching virtual mediums. Podcasts now are all much more in person too. It's like even the podcasters and the content creators want to collaborate in person. And while we're watching virtually, we want to be with them. And it's just what you're saying, this innate, natural, like, primal need to be in a tribe with other people.
Well, these podcasters are now the big ones, right?
Yeah.
Like the Smartlesses of the world are doing these live shows now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're recording live. Again, people want to be together. They want to experience it. And by the way, just for everybody to hear this, I've spent years coaching salespeople, and I've always told them, if it matters to you to want to close this business, it should matter to you to present it face to face. Don't present it over a video. Don't present it in an email. Go there and be there face to face, right? And then Harvard, during my research, Harvard Business Review came out with a research study that said that requests that are done in person are 34 times more likely to be approved. Again, if you're working from home, we're all selling. People may think that sales is a 4-letter word. Some people do. Some people love it. I think it's a wonderful thing. But we're all selling, no matter what your role is. You're selling an initiative. You're selling an idea. You're selling something. You're selling your boss on something. We're all selling. And that's really difficult to convince people when you're not face to face. You're missing all kinds of cues, right? I mean, 80% of communication is nonverbal. So, you're missing all of that. Times more likely to get an approval face to face.
And you know what? That just is so resonating for me right now, because in the age of AI, the pitching, I'm experiencing this with what I'm doing on my current projects, with what we're working out on the side together. Like, the pitching over email, over a LinkedIn DM, like there is the cold sales pitch, like, outreach. It used to be over the phone. Now it's every other way. It's in your texts, it's in your this, it's in your that. Like, people are over it. They're over this old approach of the impersonal outreach. And versus me in person, if I meet someone in person, I'm going to have a conversation, and a natural progression of, do you want to grab lunch? It's so much easier. It's just
Yeah.
so much easier. Like, we're operating on hard mode, and I don't understand why. We might have to do a part 2, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
The AI conversation is really interesting. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way. I've not ever really talked about this out loud, but I feel like you talk about this email and DM
Hmm.
communication. I, look, 2, 3 years ago, I'd never heard of AI. I don't know if any, most of us hadn't. And it's amazing how quickly I have become jaded by it. And I just assume those emails or DMs are created by AI, and
Hmm.
it diminishes the content of it, because I just think, all right, well, there's no real heart to it. There's no real soul
And
to
it
the
creates
email.
skepticism as
Yeah, I'm
well,
very
too.
skeptical. That's the good word. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel bad about it because I'm even experiencing it right now myself. There are a few instances where I'm trying to reach out to various creators for a project that I'm trying to do while I'm overseas. And part of me was like, how do I even know if this is a real person anymore? Like, how do I
Right.
even know if this portfolio, like, they made it and that person is actually them? And I hate that I'm having these skepticisms because there was always power in the portfolio. You would drop it, and then if it was a fantastic one, no questions asked. But now we're questioning portfolios. And that is why I think in person is even more important too. Because if somebody can see you in action doing your work, that helps with that skepticism as well too. But it's a big issue that I'm noticing right now.
Well, and I find myself having to disclaimer any conversation I ever have, saying, this book was not written by AI. I promise you.
Oh, that's so hard, dude.
I have friends that I've told back when I first started the book. I have friends that said, yeah, I did AI and I published it and I do it.
No, but I think overall, the takeaway of what I'm trying to convey in this conversation is, if you're someone that works in business or marketing and you happen to be a Disney fan, and you believe in these shared concepts of creating in real time together and the importance of culture, and you know maybe this more hybrid approach now that could be considered, and your leadership is not providing that for you, you know what what words of advice or maybe a call out to leadership do you think you need to provide so that we can get to the next era of what you think we should be at?
Well, speaking of sales, I'm going to put my sales hat on, but I do think that this book does help. And for your listeners, clearly, that you probably have, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that love Disney, and you probably have a lot of listeners that will
Yeah.
take it or leave it, right? But if you do love Disney or you just like Disney, I will say they just bought 2 cases of my book and are now, all the executives are reading my book because it aligns with their initiatives for
Mhm.
this year and what they're doing. So I would say leaders, because it also is a leadership book, really think easy answer, buy Workplace. Anywhere you get books, you can buy Workplace online. But invest in your own leadership and really think about the space as an asset that can really help you, not just a line item that is going to cost you money. It really can improve productivity, improve efficiency, and it will definitely improve your culture.
So well said. I think we'll have a follow up maybe on just conversations around location of workplace and things inside of it and structure and all of that. I would love to do a follow up with you, like maybe as an article or something that somebody could download and review, because I think it's so important that we're having these conversations. They need to be happening. But to be a little silly, if your office is in the middle of nowhere of Timbuktu and you're doing Zoom calls in the middle of nowhere and your leadership is not being proactive, then nobody's going back. If you want them to go back and that's your scenario, you need to read Tim's book to figure out how to make it so that it's attractive enough for people
That's
to
right.
want to go back.
That's right.
So
You got to do the work to encourage people to come back.
thank you so much for being on the show, Tim. I have a couple of rapid fire fun Disney questions to end the conversation with. One, if you could work with and design any Disney character's office or workplace culture, which character would it be and why?
Well, I think Hercules would be great. I think that would be phenomenal.
What does the
Work with a
Greek god
lifetime.
break room look
Yeah,
like? You
that's
know
right.
what
I
I
don't know.
mean?
I'd have to put some thought to that.
That would be so epic, you
Yeah.
know? They're like round table meetings. It's like a floating round table.
Yeah.
That's one of their
Well,
specs that they didn't design. Must float. Must float.
must float. And I would love to take that away from there and do that other places. I think that would be fun.
And then lastly, if you could go to any Disney park in the world for free or for fun, or do any Disney experience rather, which one would it be?
Well, I would say I would go to Epcot in Orlando. And here's the reason why is because my family, we lived in Orlando for a couple of years, and we would pick our kids up we love the fish and chips in the England.
Yes.
Yeah. We would leave, pick the kids up from school and just come out there. We had annual passes and we would have dinner there. And my wife and I would go and have date nights at Epcot. And I loved it. Food and
That's
Wine
so
Festival is my
special.
favorite time ever. That's just, I don't know how it could get any better. So I would say that's the answer.
I have the real last question for
Okay.
you. I ask almost everybody that I interview in this series. It's my ultimate side quest to somehow end up in Cinderella's castle in the suite. How do you know anyone that would let me in?
I know people that would know how to make that happen.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that, guys. Offline. Catch
Yes.
me and Tim at doing an analysis of the design of the inside of the suite so that I get to finally see it. So
Yes.
that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Bippity Boppity Business. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple or listen to us anywhere you prefer listening to your podcast. Until next time, have a magical day.